Risdiplam is an oral molecule that is trying to also increase the amount of SMN2, similar to what nusinersen is trying to do. Its strong advantage is that it is an oral medication as opposed to the intrathecal. It is still going through some clinical trials. It is not FDA approved. We need more data to be certain about its effectiveness, but the initial studies that have come out, they look very promising. Like this may be an alternative medication that may work better for some patients with SMA. Being oral is a huge advantage. The mechanism of action is to increase the SMN2 protein. It's to try and increase functional protein, increase transcription of the gene. The exact mechanism that it does it, I'm not sure that's well characterized. There's still, but it has a similar mechanism as to others. That is, can we increase the SMN2 so that we can compensate for the loss of the SMN1? So the SUNFISH trial is a later onset SMA trial. That is, the subjects that were enrolled in it were between the ages of 2 and 25. They were looking for the type 2 and type 3, not the type 1 disease. And again, they were looking at these motor functional scales. They use something called the motor functional measure, which again, a 3-point difference is felt to be clinically meaningful. And they had a part 1 and a part 2. Part 1 has been since released, and that showed a clinically meaningful response that was statistically significant in patients that were on the medication. Part 2 is currently underway as a confirmatory study.
The JEWELFISH study was a study which was mainly focused on safety aspects. So it includes patients that have a prior treatment with another SMN2 dependent drug like nusinersen, and patients that were then switched over to Risdiplam, who have a prior treatment other option, and there were no new safety signals. So we think that Risdiplam has a good safety profile. There were no drug-related AEs that lead to withdrawal of the study drug. So we don't think that a prior treatment with nusinersen does not interfere to switch patients over to Risdiplam.
The data so far is saying that the medication has a real potential. It needs to go through complete review. It needs to get all the FDA approvals for us to feel comfortable prescribing it, but we've got a lot of evidence coming through with this. For us as clinicians who treat SMA, this brings another medication, another potential medication that will hopefully be coming out on the market, so that we'll have multiple ways to treat this disease. SMA has become, because of medications like this, something where we can personalize the medication to you. We can decide which one of these is going to be the best, and then that in combination with the right multidisciplinary care to develop the right exercises, now we end up developing an individualized care program that's going to be specific for each person with SMA.
I think Risdiplam is another important drug we need for the treatment of adult SMA, because we have patients that get even worse. Also, they were treated with nusinersen, and we have to deal, as already mentioned, with radiation exposure. We have patients long-standing on nusinersen, and with every injection, you have an increasing radiation exposure. And for these patients, or patients who have severe problems with the neuromyopathic scoliosis and cannot get on treatment, I think for these adult patients, Risdiplam is a good option to get a treatment.